We're ready to go. Jarida, let me know. Actually, I see we're live streaming. Thank you, Jarida.
You're welcome.
And so we'll get started. Good morning, everyone. This is the public safety meeting for, oh my goodness, it's already August 4th. Can you believe it? Public Safety Committee, and we are kicking this off and calling it to order. I would like to do a quick introduction. We do have a lot of people here, so I'm not going to go through the entire list, but I am joined this morning by co-chair. First of all, my name is Barry Walters, and I'm chair of the Public Safety Committee. I am joined by Councilor Tiffany McGinnis, co-chair, and our friend Dr. Gail Harris. Councilor Dr. Harris is with us as well from the committee. In addition, we are joined by, and I'm going to do my best to go down the list here, Mayor Sherry Cantor, Deputy Mayor Deb Pullen. We have Councilor Ben Winograd and Councilor John Lyons, and is Lisa with us?
Here. Yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I think there's more than, well, regardless. Thank you. Good to see you. And then I believe that is our members from council. In addition, we are
Jason Wang is here.
joined. Pardon?
Jason, I believe I see Jason Wang.
Hello.
Oh, good morning, Jason. Yep, there you are. Apologies. I'm still working with trying to get the bug out to where I can see everybody. So I'm looking at the participant list, and it's not that easy. In addition, we are joined by Town Manager Rick Ledwith, Police Chief Riddick. I saw Chief Priest from Fire Department. We have Assistant Chief Rickabon, and Mr. Terra is here with us. And then I am going to go ahead and end the introductions because there are so many, and I apologize. So we do have a guest today, and Chief Riddick will introduce them. Our first order of business this morning is going to be approval of the minutes from the June 2nd meeting. And I would like to go ahead and call for a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Those in favor of the approval of the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Just real quick, as we look forward to this meeting, it is a full meeting with a presentation, and in the interest of saving time, I do believe we'll probably run a little bit over, just given the information and the discussion that I'm expecting. So I wanted to make sure everybody's aware of that. With that said, I'd like to go ahead and turn it over to Town Manager Rick Ledwith for item 2B and resolution appropriating municipal tax revenues for cannabis sales to support the Interval House.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, everyone. We are respectfully requesting the committee's support for an additional $15,000 allocation from our cannabis sales tax revenue fund to further strengthen our longstanding partnership with the Interval House, which is, folks know, is a nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting survivors of domestic violence. The funding is consistent with the state's authorized use for municipal cannabis revenue. But more importantly, this request recognizes the tremendous value that Interval House brings to our community. During the past year alone, Interval House provided services to nearly 200 West Hartford residents through emergency shelter, crisis counseling, safety planning, and at times court support. And these, they sound like one-time interactions, but they're not. Many survivors work with Interval House over months or even years as they rebuild their lives and achieve safety and stability. And our partnership extends well beyond these services. Interval House, I think folks know, has a dedicated half-time domestic violence advocate who works directly with our police department. And they focus on domestic violence cases identified through our lethality assessment program. And this advocate has become an invaluable member of our response, working closely with our police officers to connect victims with immediate resources and help break the cycle of violence. Our police department has consistently praised this partnership, and our officers have embraced a collaborative approach because they see firsthand the positive outcomes it has produced for victims and their families. And as domestic violence incidents have become a little more increasingly more complex, this collaboration with the Interval House has become even more critical. And throughout the state, they work in Hartford County with about 24 different towns. And some of these towns will help fund the positions that are directly providing services to their community. And that's what we're hoping to do with this additional $15,000. It would allow us to fund half of the salary of that advocate who's working half-time in West Hartford, sharing that individual with East Hartford, who's also supporting the other half of that salary. So approving this funding really reinforces our commitment to protecting our residents and supporting victims of domestic violence and providing our police department with resources and the partnerships that are necessary to help respond to these challenging situations. So through you, Mr. Chairman, I will pause there for a moment and turn it over to you and the committee. And if you had any questions, we would be happy to address them.
Thank you, Mr. Ledwith. I'm actually going to take a moment and before any questions are asked, and I'd like to ask Councilor McGinnis, who has been championing this allocation, to say a few words if she would like to. I did not tell her I was going to call upon her to do so, so forgive me. I hope she doesn't hate me too much. But she has been a strong champion to move this forward. So I'd like to offer her a moment to say a few words, if I may.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. So this has been something that I've been pushing for a little bit. When I came on the council, we were giving Interval House $2,800 a year, which was equal to $15 a client. And the first year I was on council, we moved that to 10,000, which was obviously a sizable increase. But with the addition of the person embedded with the police department, and I think Rick touched on that, it's the high numbers of cases that we have, but also the intensity of the cases we have are why we have someone that is split between us and East Hartford. East Hartford does pay their half of the employee. Hartford and Manchester also have an employee, and they all pay their half of that person's salary. We're in the top 4 for cases in their area, which I don't have the exact number here, but it's the greater Hartford area is what they cover. And as Chief Riddick said, even though it might show that they treat 194 or 200 clients a year, that doesn't mean that that's how many interactions they've had with that person. There could be, a few, there could be dozens. It's whatever that person, whatever help they can provide that person, they meet with that person as many times as possible. So I think that this is a good use of cannabis funds, and, really one of the things that was meant to be used for, as in the bill. But I think that West Hartford, that we have an obligation to fund this person that is embedded with the police department. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor McGinnis, and I apologize for putting you on the spot, but I knew that from previous discussions that you had information and a case that could be made for approving these funds. So with that said, I will start with, sorry, Mayor, can I start with the committee members first and then go to
Sure.
you? Okay, sorry. So we only have one other committee member to go to. Dr. Harris, do you have any questions or comments that you would like to make?
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chairman. I just sort of piggybacking on what Councilor McGinnis said. Are there any restrictions on what these funds can be used for, or I mean, obviously, I'm assuming this is something we can use it for, but for some reason, I thought most of those funds had to be more drug-related treatments.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Councilor Harris's question. So there are restrictions on the use of the cannabis revenue funds. So they can be used specifically for certainly dealing with drug addiction and substance abuse, but mental health services, youth services, programs that support justice-involved individuals, and then a category called community well-being as well. So it would be an appropriate use of these funds in this case. We do have a balance right now, about $230,000 in our account, and we do receive close to about $250,000 in annual revenue between the three dispensaries that we have here in town.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Harris. And if you have no other questions, I'll go ahead and open up. And Mayor Cantor, you had a question or a comment.
Thank you, Chairman Walters. I just wanted to add that we had a grant that was originally the start of this program, and when I got together with Chief Riddick and we were talking about the idea of embedding an advocate, the town was receiving a grant for funding. So I just want to make sure people know that grant funding actually did go away. And so this is to replace that. And I don't know if the town manager wants to add anything, but.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor. And yeah, we did lose that funding a couple of years back. In addition, as we know, with all nonprofits, they rely heavily on grant funding, which has been diminishing over the last couple of years. Meanwhile, their costs to provide these services between salary for their employees and benefits continue to rise. And they rely very heavily on funding from the municipalities that they support. And as Councilor McGinnis mentioned earlier, when you look at the services that they're providing here in West Hartford, and you tie that amount that we've been sending them to the number of individuals that they're serving, and then you compare it to other municipalities that Interval House is working with, you could see there was an opportunity for us to if able to increase that funding to get us more in line with where East Hartford and Manchester and Hartford are in terms of that allocation per resident that they serve. So and being able to do that without impacting our taxpayers by utilizing the cannabis revenue fund, I think is a good solution. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ledwith. I just did a quick scroll. I didn't see any hands up. So, but is there anybody who would like to make offer a question or a comment, please?
Through you, Mr. Chair, if I can, Chief Riddick.
Yes, Chief. Good morning,
I
and thank you.
fully endorse and support this allocation. As much as the mayor likes to share credit, this was her idea when she approached me a couple of years ago regarding having one of the workers being embedded here. It's a phenomenal program, and for the law enforcement officials who are on here, we understand how difficult it is for victims of domestic violence to come forward. People who are ignorant to this situation, well, why won't they leave? If he's abusing you or you are getting abused, why don't you just go? You must want it's so ridiculous. Well, where are you going to go if you have a couple kids and you have nowhere else to go? Where are you going to go if you're dependent on somebody financially? How are you going to feed yourself or your kids? And then you have threats on your life. So this service is invaluable, and the need is exponential. It really, really is. And having had the opportunity to tour one of their facilities, they really do a great job trying to create a home atmosphere for people at their lowest and most traumatic time. So I fully endorse and support and thank the town for taking this leap forward financially.
Thank you, Chief Riddick, and I couldn't have said it better than any of you have mentioned. Domestic violence does touch upon so many lives. Probably pretty much somebody that everybody here knows has been touched by domestic violence in one way or another, and the effects that it have on those families is not a one and done. It goes on for generations, oftentimes. So I think that this is a fair contribution for us to make to lift us up into a place where we're paying our fair share of this individual's salary and offering this, as Chief Riddick said, invaluable service. With that, we're, one last call for questions or comments, and then we will move on to the next topic. If everybody is in agreement, consensus that we should add this on to the next, is it the next council meeting?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we would have it on the council agenda for August 12th. Sorry.
Okay, that's all right. Thank you. Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Ledwith, for putting this on the agenda and moving it up before we talk about the next incredibly important topic. We'll go ahead and move on to our discussion regarding license plate readers, also commonly known as flock cameras. It is something that has been of great interest here in West Hartford as well as across the country. And I would like to, I look forward to this discussion, pros, cons, otherwise, and I will go ahead and turn it over again to Town Manager Rick Ledwith.
Thank you, and appreciate the opening remarks. It certainly has been a topic that's been in the news recently here in the state and as you mentioned, throughout the country. So, and we're looking forward to providing an overview of our program. And I think with any public safety technology, it is important to have this open and transparent conversation about its purpose, certainly, and certainly about its safeguards as well. And as this council knows, we just recently had this dialogue with our recently approved speed enforcement and red light camera program. And similarly, our LPR program is not, as we discussed with our red light and speed camera, it's not about monitoring people's movements or collecting personal information. It captures license plate numbers. It doesn't capture images of the folks in the car, and really just compares those plate numbers against our database with our program, and helps us identify stolen vehicles, folks who are wanted by other law enforcement agencies, missing persons, endangered persons, and as well as other public safety alerts. And across the state and here in town, our technology, technology has proven to be an effective investigative tool. And dozens and dozens of cases that this chief can certainly speak about here in town, but throughout the state as well. It's helped solve serious crimes, recover stolen vehicles, locate missing children and adults, and identify suspects. And when used responsibly, it does make our town safer. At the same time, we recognize that any technology has to have safeguards and oversight. And Connecticut, as you'll hear from the chief, has enacted legislation that establishes standards for the use of license plate reader systems, including limitations on data retention and access controls, audit requirements, and prohibiting uses unrelated to legitimate law enforcement purposes. So, and our police department policies here in West Hartford reflect these standards and are designed to ensure that the technology is used responsibly and transparently, and certainly with respect for individual privacy. So for us, it's not a question of choosing between public safety and privacy. We believe we can achieve both, and by employing technology with policies and accountability and oversight, we feel we can better protect our residents and certainly maintain the trust of our residents as well. So with that, as an opening, I'd like to turn things over to the chief, who will provide an overview of the program. We also invited Max Weinstein, who is a representative from Flock Safety, who is the vendor who we are working with here in West Hartford. And through you, Mr. Chairman, I will turn things over to our chief, Chief Riddick.
Good morning, Mr. Manager. Mr. Chair, thank you for this opportunity. I will attempt to share my screen, but I probably don't need a presentation because, Mr. Manager, you pretty much said everything. Well done. I appreciate that. Stand by. Can you folks see that okay? And can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, awesome. So good morning. First, just some thanks to the mayor and the town manager for this opportunity to speak this morning. And for the viewing public, just please understand and know that the mayor and the town manager have been in constant communication with me regarding citizen concerns, town council persons' concerns, and just in general, the public's concerns regarding these LPR cameras. I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank Lieutenant Mealy and his team in our intelligence center for helping me construct this slide deck, providing the information and the like. And of course, Public Works comes out and they are now cutting the grass as they always do during public safety time. So I hope you can hear me okay. Chief Tara, thank you for your assistance. And begrudgingly, I had to humble myself and ask Chief Priest, who was really good with technology as far as putting together PowerPoints and all the nice tricks and stuff. So he was gracious enough to assist me last evening. So let's go forward. Let's go to work. Extremely important to understand that public safety and civil liberties are not adversaries. They can complement each other as we go forward, as we have been going forward with our ALPR program. Public safety is important, protecting our victims. Privacy is extremely important. Transparency is paramount. And of course, accountability through audits and training. So why are we here this morning? If we've watched the national narrative, there's been a lot of discussions regarding LPRs. LPRs, is- people have now said associated flock to all LPRs. Well, we know there's different vendors out there. It reminds us of a Kleenex. There's many different types of tissues, but everyone just says Kleenex. So that's where we are regarding flocks, and flock is our vendor. And I truly have an appreciation for the public's concern regarding potential overreach of governmental authority and what's happening with the data. Let's look back just a little bit. The LPR technology is not new. 20 plus years, not just here with the law enforcement component, but you have toll booths, parking garages, which capture your license plate. West Hartford back in 2009 initially started looking into LPRs, but the technology wasn't that good, and they decided not to go forward back then. I can also tell you from my time previously working in the Waterbury Police Department, we had LPRs, mobile LPRs, many, many years ago, utilizing this technology, not just for law enforcement purposes, but for tax scoffs, people who lived out of state and didn't register their vehicle. All this technology was utilized through LPRs. The rollout, 2022, when we really focused on this, this was discussed in internal staff meetings. It was also discussed during the Public Safety Committee meeting. I personally did on-camera interviews. Assistant Chief Tara did a news release and commented in the media, as well as social media. So this is no surprise. This is nothing new. This has been out there for quite some time. During that time, yes, there were some issues that came up. There were some concerns from the ACLU, but nowhere near to the levels that we're currently experiencing now nationwide. So what's changed? If we've had this technology for several years, there was not a huge outcry. What really has changed? And as each and one of us go forward every day, the device we really should be concerned about, if you can see this, is our cell phone. The tracking that goes on here, whether it's foreign countries, private companies, the data, uh, the research that's being done, the algorithms, all these things that are occurring here. What is really going on now that we have this huge focus on LPRs? And it's legitimate, by the way. I 100% understand it and I get it. Well, we've seen the change in the, some will say overreach of the utilization of ICE, immigration and customs enforcement. We've seen things play out in the media. We've seen how ICE is not and has not used body cams in the past. No, their faces are covered, no name tags, and utilizing some of this technology to go get immigration folks and potentially other people. So there's been a shift, and the public is disturbed and troubled. We all know the case, the Texas deputy who utilized the ALPR system to investigate a reproductive rights case. No one agreed with, well, let me not say that. Most of us in the law enforcement community, that is not the purpose of that, to go to an entire another jurisdiction regarding a woman utilizing her rights. It's just wrong. And the country has a moral compass, and they are speaking. This has resulted in an impact of increased levels of fear and distrust by the public. Again, this is not a political statement. I'm just stating the obvious, what we're seeing in the news, the conversations I'm having with family members and friends regarding concerns, and the perceived outreach from what they're seeing, overreach of where the government is going, and people do not like that. And listen, let's call a spade a spade. I believe we live in the greatest country on this planet, bar none. I am willing to give my life in order to save an individual, the rights of folks, not an issue. And I know my officers here at the PD will do the same. But notwithstanding, we have a checkered past. Our government has done some things that weren't right. Our great Constitution did not apply to all of us. There was women's suffrage. We have the Tuskegee experiment that happened. During the World War, we had groups of people who were put in encampments in our country and on our soil for nothing else more than the way they looked. So for us to simply dismiss these concerns, for us to simply say that, hey, it's a great tool and that's it. No, we have to address these things. And there's 1000% legitimacy to that. So we do have safeguards, statute, model policy. Connecticut law and policy govern the use of ALPRs. This matter was taken up by the legislature this past session. It was signed into law with Public Act 2614 in May of this year. There's established strict rules on retention, oversight of ALPRs with public and law enforcement agencies. It's important for this group to know that I sit on the Post Council and we have a seat at the table. And Post actually came out with a model policy prior to the legislative requirement. Now, there are some things that will come into place in October of this year as a result of the law, but we really tried to get ahead of this thing. We understood the concerns, but we, at the same time, we understood the significant value to public safety that the ALPRs can provide. They do not have to be mutually exclusive. Under the statute, data retention is 21 days. This does not become to law until October 1st. We already have changed our policy in West Hartford. We are currently in compliance with the 21-day rule, even though it's not required until October 1st. Data sharing, again, effective October 4th. Agencies in Connecticut can only share data with Connecticut, New York, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island, or if you have an officer in a multi-jurisdictional task force. That being said, we already have changed our policy and updated it. We are currently in compliance with the statute, even though it doesn't come into effect until October. And I have Mr. Max Weinstein here, who can discuss a lot of these issues later on the flock side. So I thank him for that. Vendor contracts prohibit the selling of data, and the consumer, those of us who have the agencies who have this, can only share data with permission. So even though we're allowed to share with New York, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island, we can decide not to if we wanted to. And by the way, Max is a former West Hartford resident, and I think he went to Conard. And under the statute, LPRs are prohibited near the following facilities: reproductive and sexual health care, gender affirming care, immigrant services. So what the legislature did, they tasked Post with coming up with a policy, as well as what's the distance that these ALPRs can be placed when it comes to these types of facilities. The big question during the legislative session and during our discussions is, well, how are we as law enforcement even supposed to know where these locations are? And out of ignorance, we might place a camera somewhere, not even knowing that. So there is a requirement. Well, if these agencies or these facilities wish to participate, they can notify Post of their location, and then that will assist as far as creating a policy and the distance for the LPRs can be placed. The statute also requires an annual report be placed online, and it'll be submitted to the Yukon Institute for Municipal and Regional Policy. The reports to due by January 31st. And some of the information to include, but not limited to, I just used a few examples here. Number of license plates scanned in a year, searches performed, and the reason when we say searches, that is putting in information to the system, looking for plates, dates, times, reason, any data that was shared with another entity. Again, we're restricted in Connecticut. When it was shared and accessed per a judicial warrant, that's being adherence to the Trust Act. And any situation in which data was retained longer than 21 days. So just for clarification, yes, the requirement for the retention is 21 days, but if we have a criminal case that's going on or an ongoing investigation, there may be times will need to go beyond the 21 days, but we're required to document that with an explanation as to why. In West Hartford, our police officers are not authorized to use any LPR system until they receive training. We do it through our Power DMS system in order to gain access, and our administrator, which is Lieutenant Anthony Mealy, who is on with us, he is our oversight at this time. And they must acknowledge the policy updates. It has to be for law enforcement purposes, audits and supervisory oversight. Our policy calls for quarterly reviews. At this time, I've been in discussions with Lieutenant Mealy. We're probably going to adjust that to monthly and maybe even more frequent. We just want to see how the volume is. So we don't want to set ourselves with failure, but we just want to, take a look at this and make sure it works. Right now, on our West Hartford PD webpage, we have several policies that are there, including our LPR policy, so people can take a look at that. Our flock transparency portal is there. And in that portal, what you have is a number of days that the data is retained, how many of LPR cameras that we have, the total number of plates read over the last 30 days, and the total number of hot lists over the last 30 days. By hot list, there'll be, there's just wanted cars or something that occurred, then information is placed into NCIC, and then if that plate hits off one of the LPRs, we'll get an alert regarding that. So again, a valuable tool. And by the way, there is no requirement at this time for the transparency portal. So we are doing that. What are some do's and don'ts regarding the system that we have here? Here's what it does. It does capture license plates in public view, records visible vehicle characteristics. That means if people put information in to the system, it will alert off that, supports permitted investigations, and creates investigative leads. What does not do, there's no images of individuals. We don't use facial recognition. There's no recording of audio conversations. There's no First Amendment infringements or monitoring at all. Again, this is tool. This is not, the word has become synonymous with surveillance, like we're watching and Big Brother's watching all the time. That is not the intent at all, and that is not the purpose, and that is not the function. At a glance, we have 34 cameras. Since January of this year, we recovered 38 stolen vehicles from flock alerts. Since the inception of our program in 2022, 276 amber, silver, and missing persons alerts. That does not recognize how many of those we actually found, but these are the alerts that were put in. And as previously was mentioned, we have the data retention of 21 days. So notable successes. Just chose to pick and choose a few things here of when this program has been helpful in solving crimes. But I want to make sure I stress this. Successes are very, very important, but not at the expense of civil liberties. So again, they are not in conflict. So no matter how successful a program is, if we're violating laws, then we can't do it. We are not doing that. We are not in violation. There aren't any Fifth Amendment issues going on here. Fourth Amendment issues going on here. I'm sorry. So successes for the traffic division. In 2025, we had a fatal pedestrian motor vehicle collision. The vehicle evaded the scene. We did talk to a few witnesses. We did not have good statements from them. We found a piece of evidence on the scene, which the investigators were able to put it to what we believe a specific vehicle. Um, Fortunately, we put this information into the flock system, and within 13 hours in the use of the flock technology, we were able to make an arrest and secure an arrest warrant. Without the flock technology, this crime would not have remained, probably would have remained unsolved for quite some time. So it was a huge force multiplier for us, and it brought comfort to those families. At the same time, some closure to them and our officers. On a lower level, in town property, a town-owned parking lot, there was a hit and run. Person did some minor damage to the vehicle, but because of the surveillance footage that we had, we were able to get a make and model, put that description through the flock camera system, and based upon going through the scans and hitting on a few cameras, we were able to locate a plate, and we got the suspect vehicle and made an arrest. So another good success story. And patrol in our community support division, and the community support division is called CSU. That is more of our street crime interdiction unit. In 2026 is a recent, just a few weeks ago. Sorry, we had a flock hit that led to an arrest for an individual who had multiple warrants at East Hartford and Hartford. And as we talked about domestic violence, charges included domestic violence, interfering with police, and breach of peace. And also, just a few weeks ago, as a result of a flock hit of a stolen motor vehicle, we'd arrested 2 individuals. The charges for failure of probation, violation of probation, failure to appear in the second degree, violation of protective order, usually domestic violence related, criminal impersonation, interfering with police, larceny of a motor vehicle in the first degree, possession of drug paraphernalia, and possession with intent to sell. Again, great grabs as utilization of this technology. Last year, around November, we had a family that reported one of their loved ones missing. They did not know where they were at. As a result of the flock technology, we put the information into the LPRs. Later on in the evening, the vehicle hit on a couple of the LPRs. Long story short, we were able to zero in and locate the individual and got them the help that they needed, and brought closure and comfort to the family to get this individual home. And this person was driving around for about 16 hours when we spoke to them, and he was just trying to find his way home and just couldn't do it. That concludes my slideshow presentation. At this time, my request through you, Mr. Chair, if I could allow Max Weinstein from Flock to provide some comments regarding the Flock technology specifically, and then after that, we can entertain any questions, if that's okay with you, sir. You are muted.
Thank you. I said absolutely make it so, Chief Riddick.
Thank you, appreciate it. Mr. Weinstein, good to see you, Max. The floor is yours. Thank you for taking time, and thank you for your assistance in helping us prepare for today. Go ahead, Max.
Thank you, Chief. And to the committee, thank you very much for allowing me a little time to present this morning. My name is Max. I'm the Director of Public Trust and Technology here at Flock. I've been with the company for about 2.5 years. And as Chief mentioned before, one correction, Chief, I am a Hall grad. But other than that, you were spot on. I am this meeting is actually really important to me personally because, yes, I grew up in West Hartford. I still live in the area. I'm 15 minutes from the center. My parents are still here. So while it is my job to travel the country, I'm getting on a plane later today to head out to Arizona to do similar meetings like this. This meeting is of particular personal importance because this is where my family is. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak. Chief, as you mentioned, LPR technology is not new. Flock was able to really transform the way it's utilized within law enforcement. And as a company, we really want to create a technology that works for local values. and whatever those local values might be. And we want to put safeguards within our technology that allow users to still have functionality, but to balance that privacy with the actual usable nature of the program. And so I think that, we're at a really big inflection point for not just LPR technology, but AI use in general, especially with regards to public safety. And I think it's human nature to question and fear what's not understood. And so we believe that meetings like this around the country are incredibly important because it is a platform for us to educate the public and educate elected officials such as yourselves and appointed officials on what we stand for as a company, and that is truly solving for victims. We have introduced this technology in over 6,000 communities nationwide, as well as many private companies, and we've created a system that really is robust, not in just the way it works, but in its privacy protections within the system as well. And so, to everyone here, thank you again. I want to use this time as a true ask me anything. There are a lot of fallacies out there. As Chief said, we are the Kleenex of LPR. There are a lot of issues with vendors out there who are in our space and what they're doing. Flock tends to take a lot of the rap for that. And so I'm here to correct the record and answer any questions that the committee might have.
Thanks, Max. Through you, Mr. Chairman, I know there's probably some questions, so I concede.
Keep putting myself on mute. I apologize. Thank you, Max. And yes, Chief Riddick, I know that there are going to be some questions. I was already made aware of that before the meeting. So I do want to go ahead and open up the questions and comments to our committee members first, starting with Councilor McGinnis. Do you have any questions?
Not at the moment, but I reserve the right to have some later.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And I will move on to Dr. Harris. Councilor Harris, do you have any questions or comments, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, first of all, thank you for that really informative presentation. Really helps to understand what exactly are flock cameras, so I'm appreciative of that. I had a couple of questions. One is, you said, I believe that there are 34 cameras in town. I was wondering how you decide where you put them, which locations those go to and why. And then the second question I had was, what was the cost of the program, or meaning what is the town spending on flock cameras? Thank you.
All right, through you, Mr. Chair. The initial inception of this was an ARPA funding back in 2022. The initial outlay, the annual cost now is about $64,000 that we paid to 5-year contract. The locations, we did that, and Lieutenant Milley, feel free to jump in. He was instrumental with this. It was all based upon crime data, trends, crashes, all these things that occur in town, and very similar to the same metrics that were used or are being used for our red light and speed camera program. And LT, if anything else you want to add there that I may have missed, feel free.
No, that pretty much covers it. We try to cover inlets and outlets for town, major arteries, areas with a lot of businesses, and high traffic areas. We focus on major intersections where there's a lot of vehicular traffic moving in and out of town. As it stands, there's a lot of openings. If you actually see a map of the cameras, which is probably something that we could provide at a later time, they're very spread out. We tried to spread them evenly throughout the town.
Okay, thank you. I just want to clarify, that's 64,000 for 5 years, or that's 64,000 per year?
Annual cost for 5 years.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Harris, for those questions. And I'm going to go ahead and follow up with a few questions of my own before we open up to others. I also want to confirm that that $64,000, has that on an annual basis paid for itself? Would you say?
I would say, how do you put a cost on public safety? Um, I would say yes. I think for the 64,000 and the numerous cases that we've utilized, again, for the point of time, since we started this is the LPRs have led to 218 arrests and over 393 what we call success stories. Missing persons or other low, quote unquote, low level things that don't rise to an arrest. So it's a very valuable tool when utilized. I equate it to your firearm, right? It's a necessary need of your firearm. When used properly, there's no issues. When used incorrectly, you're going to have issues. We have other programs, NCIC, National Crime Information Center. There are safeguards there that officers have to use that appropriately. But if they don't, they could be arrested for computer crime, and there's policy violations for termination. So it's an invaluable tool. Yes, it more than pays for itself. And the way our world is going, technology wise, this to me, this is not a want. This is a need.
Thank you. Thank you for that answer, Chief Riddick, because I think that that was an important a statement to make there. I'll go back and so Chief Riddick, you had mentioned that metrics were similar to our red light camera are utilized in placement of these cameras. So does that include social equity issues that the state required with the speed and red light cameras, where we don't load up certain areas with cameras, et cetera?
100%. Um, and if I can just expound on that just a little bit, that was a personal requirement. Being a person of color, understanding how different communities can be impacted in perceptions, we were not going to do that and have not done that. So as the lieutenant had mentioned, we made sure it was spread out town-wide and it was all data driven.
Thank you, Chief Riddick. Um, I guess my other questions, which I'm going to guess are going to come up, so I wanted to ask them. So, have we ever had an issue where information was accessed from the outside without our permission?
I am not aware of that. There's safeguards on that, and I think Max could probably talk more specifically to that.
Yeah, happy to speak about what exists within our system. The town owns the data. We are the custodian of the data, but the town owns the data. The town decides what the town does with it and who they share with within the confines of policy, but also this new law that's coming into effect in October, which just basically includes the surrounding states around Connecticut. Um, we, like any software vendor, are just the custodian. So we do not decide what happens with the data, where it flows. We have safeguards within the system to make sure that it is only shared with who the town chooses and elects to share with. In addition, you can only share, the sharing network is only for other law enforcement agencies. So even though Flock does have a private customer group, those customers' data is completely separate and bifurcated from law enforcement. So they can share with their local law enforcement, the private customers, but it does not go the other way. It's not a reciprocal relationship. It's unilateral. And so we are very careful with how we handle data, and we've really, really ensured a robust cybersecurity infrastructure. I'm happy to go into specifics on that if there are any questions.
I will leave the specifics to another person to ask for. I'm sure there may be that question. What about in the case of, and thank you for that answer. What about in the case of, say, subpoenas? I want to make sure that people understand, if I don't know, if a federal agency were to come to us with a subpoena, in that case, where the obligations lie.
Sure. So, sorry, is the question if the federal agency comes to Flock with a subpoena or West Hartford Police?
Well, I think if West Hartford Police come, we own the data, so it's not a question. So outside agencies outside of West Hartford.
Yeah. So to be clear, if a federal agency or any agency comes to Flock with a subpoena or a request for customer data, it is Flock's position and contractual obligation to refer that entity back to the data owner, in this case, the town. So we would redirect to the town and say you must go to them if you want the data. If for some reason, and I want to be clear, this has never happened. We are speaking in hypotheticals now. But if for some reason that federal agency or whatever that entity is came back to Flock and said, no, you must comply with this subpoena, we would refer them back to the town and we will stand shoulder to shoulder with your legal representation to fight that. If at the end of whatever legal process that is, for some reason, there is a judge that insists that data must be released to that federal agency, we would have no choice, as the town would have no choice but to comply. Now, that is Flock's legal position. I can tell you that in the history of Flock, that has not happened.
Okay, thank you. That's very interesting to know, and I appreciate that. One last question, and I'll turn it over to others. Given what has just been said, what recourse do we have? I know that we have a contract, and I'm asking a lot of these questions because I may already know the answer, but or it's come to me, and so these questions are for that purpose. What recourse do we have if there is some kind of sharing of the information, however that were to happen? Um, what recourse do we have as a town um, with
So
that?
it would immediately, as a vendor, make us in default of the contract, right? It's an immediate contract default. In addition, once this SB 397, I think is the number, goes into effect, there is legal recourse within state law if a vendor shares data without permission. So, and by the way, we have no technical ability to do that. There'd be no reason for us to do that. So there is recourse within the law through the Attorney General's office as well, in addition to obviously contractual default.
Great, thank you. Thank you for that answer. And thank you. I didn't thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here um, and we won't hold it against you for Hall. I'm a Connor district, so Um, but in any case, we'll go ahead and open up the to questions. And as I have mentioned before, I may not be able to see everybody. So, we've already gone with our committee members. So those individuals outside of the committee, please, if you have any questions or comments, we are ready for you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chairman. This might be more of a policy question, so I'm not sure if it's directed at Chief Riddick or Town Manager Ledwith. So we, per the new ordinance, the state law, we will be having an agreement with surrounding states. Is it a closed reciprocal? I don't know if that's the right term for it. In other words, are their agreements only with us, or is there the possibility that we could share data with a neighboring state in line with the ordinance, but then they could then turn around and share it with somebody who's not in the ordinance?
Chief, do you
So
mind?
Good. Well,
Sorry, I know the
know-
question.
Go ahead.
The
Go ahead,
question's
Matt.
not directed at me, but I just want to say from a technical perspective, the way the data flow works within the system is there's no daisy chaining of data. Meaning if West Hartford shares with an agency in Rhode Island and that agency decides that they want to try and share West Hartford's data with another state that's not allowed in SB 397, there's no technical ability for that to be able to happen within the actual platform. You can't daisy chain data is what it's called. You can only share your data.
Terrific. Thank you. And then,
Well, I got to follow up,
Oh,
Mr.
yep.
Lyons, and there's also a prohibition. There's a warning that's on the data that if that were to occur, whoever accesses the information, there's a huge warning that says it must adhere to the Trust Act and you can't go beyond certain things. And if so, they'd be subject to prosecution. So there's another safeguard that's there.
Thank you, Chief Rick. Rick, I really appreciate it. I guess just a comment. I'm sure, hopefully we'll hear others express the same thing. Is I just think we have an education battle on this, and it is, it's just national. The amount of people I run into on the street, emails, that sort of thing. It's really become a hot button. So I hope we can. I really appreciate the presentation. So thank you all.
Thank you, Councilor Lyons. Moving on to the next person, do we have any other questions, please?
Mr. Chairman, can I ask one?
Yes, go ahead, Councilor Wang.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Chief Riddick or to Max. I've actually maybe a few questions. So within West Hartford PD, who can access flock data? Is it any officer? Is it specific people who are specially credentialed? And what kind of training or auditing do West Hartford police officers receive in order to be able to access this data?
Through you, Mr. Chair. As I mentioned in the presentation, our officers cannot utilize the system until they go through the training. It's the Power DMS, which is tracked online training that we have to make sure that they pass that. Secondly, as was previously mentioned, Lieutenant Mealy currently is the administrator who's on with us right now. He has conducted, according to policy, it's quarterly, but he has been doing it more frequently. And we are looking into making that probably, I don't know, monthly or so. LT, as far as any other access with the officers, is there, they can't, I don't want to speak for you, but in our discussions, there's no way an officer can utilize the system until they pass the training. Is that accurate? If you can get into that a little bit, please.
Yep, that's correct, Chief. So every officer is required to go through a training in our system that we use for training bulletins and policy updates. It's called Power DMS. It's audited so we can see who's gone through the training, who's completed it, date and time stamped. After officers complete the training, so a new officer finishes their field training process. At that point, they are allowed to go into Power DMS and complete the prescribed training to use the LPR system. After they complete that training, they notify me, the LPR administrator, via email. I confirm that they've completed the training, and then an account is created for them. To the question of who has access to the system, it's sworn personnel only. And yes, any of our sworn personnel. So that would be the same staff that has access to NCIC, as Chief previously mentioned, the National Criminal Information System. That is equally heavily audited, and as he mentioned, penalties for misuse are up to and including arrest. So all the same parameters exist for Flock and NCIC, and it's the same users that are using both systems, sworn personnel. The auditing process, we take random samples of officers throughout the month, and Flock makes it very easy to audit what's been done. There's timestamps and date stamps for essentially every keystroke in a program. So we take a random sampling of usernames, we run their search history, and we make sure that everything is compliant. Case numbers are being utilized. Everything is for legitimate law enforcement purposes. And to date, we've had no adverse findings during our audits.
Thank you very much. And I apologize. I think I must have missed that critical part of your presentation when I was dropping off at Buena Vista, which has no cell phone signal. Mr. Chairman, can I ask a second question, if possible?
Go ahead, Mr. Wang.
Okay, thank you. And through you. So on the corporate side, I think a lot of people's concerns, I think people generally, very much trust our local, our municipal officials and our police. I think the bigger concern is how much access the corporation has. And, I think I heard some of that during the presentation, but how is our data like encrypted, or like if I have cloud data at Hartford Hospital, for example, that is personal and it's encrypted in OneDrive. So Microsoft cannot go in and read my data, even though my data is hosted on a Microsoft server. Is that how it works with Flock, or what level of access does the actual corporation have to our data?
Yeah, I can take that. That's a good question. So yes, the second data is taken on the actual device, it is encrypted. It is encrypted in transit. It is encrypted at rest, which means that the entire process of that is encrypted by CGIS as well as NIST standards. So it's two standards that we comply with as a vendor. In addition, the difference between like OneDrive and I'm going to use another medical example that you use at Hartford. Is something like Epic, right? Where you actually need to decrypt that information for a provider to actually be able to read it in a patient room, for example. That is kind of where Flock is. And so there is a specific subset of CGIS certified employees that exist within here. I'm one of them, who, because we need to fix the system, may at times be able to see images captured on West Hartford devices. We are not logging into West Hartford's searchable database. That is a key distinction. We're not able to query the data, meaning we can't search it. This is for like if Lieutenant Milley reaches out and says, hey, we have a camera that's down. We have technicians that go out that will fix the camera, make sure it's lined up, and in the course of that may see images that are flashing across the screen. We have very strict access policies. Anytime that's done, it's audited. We have a very strict policy that is immediate termination for violation of anything that's internal.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Wang, for your questions, and thank you, Max. We have not heard, I believe, from a few council members. Okay, I see Deputy Mayor has raised her hand, and thank you, Jerida. I don't know what you did, but I now see everybody.
Thank you, Chairman Walters. So my question has to do with a slide you had up earlier, Chief Riddick, about where the cameras are prohibited from being. And I don't know if you want to find that slide again, but there was some language on there around not being near a reproductive or sexual health facility. Can you talk a little more about how we determine what those are? I think it's possible that the intent was to protect Planned Parenthood, for example, but lots of healthcare facilities provide sexual health and reproductive health. And we have a lot of them in town. So I'm just trying to get a little bit more information about how it's determined where the cameras are allowed and prohibited.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's why the requirement in the statute is for the facility to notify post. So therefore, we are not making that determination. They are making that determination. And to your point about us having a lot here, I believe between us and Milford, I think we're probably one of the highest in the state regarding that. So again, the onus is on the facility if they so desire to notify post, who in turn notify us.
Thank you very much. I
Oh,
think
I'm
that's
sorry, when I
important
say
for healthcare providers to know. And so hopefully they'll learn that from somebody.
so when I
Appreciate
say post, it's Police Officer Standing and Trading Council, which
Mm.
governs the policies and procedures of all police officers in the state of Connecticut.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And we have a question from Councilor Winograd. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one question. I want to clarify, and we had some issue. I know on social media about a camera near a daycare center, and there were some concerns raised about that. And I don't think they were related, but you may have seen then. If we could, kind of comment on what we do if we get that kind of complaint about concerns people have. And with that, I guess just wanted to get some clarification. I understand, like with our cameras that we'll be putting in for speed, it's very clear that the only image being captured is the license plate. I just want to get the clarification here that even, I mean, there is no what is stored. What we're talking about in terms of storage and the protection of the storage is a license. Is that specific capture of a license plate? So it isn't that we don't look at the face of people driving, but we don't even have that ability. Is that correct?
That's accurate for the LPRs. And to your initial question, that's not even our camera. The camera, if that's the email that I believe you're referring to, that's a private entity's camera. That is not a West Hartford Police Department camera, LPR camera.
Thank you. And just so just to follow up, so the flock cameras that are in town, these are purely license plate readers and nothing, no other information is being captured. Is that accurate?
For the specific flock cameras, yes. However, as you know, we have other surveillance cameras that we have throughout the town regarding that. But for the flock cameras, that is accurate.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, just one other request. And the transparency portal that you have on the website, I think is useful. I admit I've taken a couple different times trying to find it because it's sort of you have to hit the policies and then scroll down policies to find it. I'm wondering whether, given the amount of interest, whether it's possible to sort of boost that portal a little better so that our policies maybe can be found more easily by people searching for it. I just had trouble like navigating the website, and I think it's important to give people as much information as possible on this.
I don't disagree. I think we can rearrange the location and put it to the top because there is several policies you have to get to first. But I do think it's important that it stays in the policy section. And if you're looking for policies, there's a huge box that goes to the policies, and that's where you get everything that we have. But I do agree with you because once you get to the policies, now you have to scroll down, so we can definitely move that to the top of the list.
And just maybe even with policies include parenthetically that includes, like I said, it wouldn't have occurred to me to go to the policies for it if I didn't know that. So I don't know. We can talk about that, maybe offline. But it just I try to like look for stuff that I've found been sent to me otherwise, and I try to find it as just a regular consumer of our website. And it didn't even occur to me to hit policies because I was thinking transparency portal. I was looking for not policies, but metrics or something. So I don't know. Maybe there's some other way to describe it, but just a thought. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilor Winograd. And I know that my success in finding the transparency policy was just Googling the terms directly, and yes, then you had to scroll down to get to it. So there is some perhaps moving it up would be helpful. Thank you. So I do not see any other hands up. Oh, Mayor Cantor.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to, a couple of things. Obviously, this has been, we've all received a lot of feedback, information, read about in all kinds of publications. And I'm very grateful to have such responsive leadership. There's not a question that is dismissed or minimized in any way. It's taken seriously, and I'm so grateful for that. And Max, thank you. I am a Hall grad, as are my 4 boys, so I appreciate the leadership. But thank you for being here. I know I'm sure this has been a hard time, and in an environment when everything is political and everything is leading in a way of technology that we can't even grasp, the AI. And now Connecticut has just received quantum grants, federal government and Connecticut, and what that can do is just remarkable. It actually makes AI look slow in many ways. So we are at a time of tremendous anxiety, and there's so much that's really we can't define and we can't control, and I understand that. And so I want to make sure that we are making decisions based on facts and not emotion and fear, and that we're really measured in what we do and how we are accountable. We had some meetings that are, people are very concerned about the company as a whole, the investors in the company and the connections to maybe, again, uses that for using private data or even public data for particular outcomes. And what I think I've been asking, and I keep hearing consistently, is the protections surrounding this are answering those questions. And we still need to, be eyes wide open. And if anything were to change, if the courts were to start to insist that Flock open up data for a use for something, that would change the dynamic of how we would handle and what kind of information we would have available for any kind of federal government misuse. And as the chief said in the beginning, we have a storied past in our history, and very responsible, but very irresponsible, scary, cruel treatment of people in our past. And so we don't want to head down a road where we're enabling that. But consistently, what I have heard is that the support that this tool has provided our community, and this is not necessarily just the police, it's our community, it's our residents, our visitors, and the information that they get, whether it is a hit and run or a pedestrian bicycle, God forbid, or a home invasion or a domestic violence or a corporate crime, whatever. I think it truly makes our community safer with knowing that our state and our local, sorry, my husband's on a call and he's very loud. Our state and our local leaders have really boiled down in a way and provided the policies and the guidance. I do think that the examples, whether it's the Texas example or I sent it to the chief, an example of a rogue officer misusing the information to follow an ex-girlfriend and how that was misused. So having those tools, I think, is really understanding how we can prevent by training and audits, and then making sure that we are enforcing anything that goes wrong. We had a meeting with several residents, and one was from Windsor who had disconnected the Flock and had their reasons for doing that. And mostly, I think there were a lot of unanswered questions and maybe some we found to be misinformation in our meeting. Correct, Chief? I mean, I think that was pretty clear. And Town Manager.
Yes.
And I just a couple follow-up questions that one of our residents had asked was had audits been done prior to sort of this current environment? And I think that question was answered, that you had done them. I just want to make sure that we get back to Robin on that. And the flock had a 20%, I think it was clearance rate is the term. And West Hartford, she asked about whether that was a similar clearance rate and would we have that number? I think that was her question. So I just wanted to make sure we address that and answer it and make and get back to her on that. I did just want to address one more time that and just even with talking with neighbors and friends, protesters, people very concerned that people that are coming out in protest for a variety of things, immigration, ICE enforcements, any racial discriminatory actions by the federal government or whatever it is, that the federal, that data, a car that is present at a protest could be put into a system and then followed and pursued. And I just want maybe Max, in your professional way, to explain how that wouldn't or couldn't happen, and to provide those assurances.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Mayor. I actually graduated with one of your sons, by the way. We have a couple things within the system from a technical level that blocks First Amendment searching. Also, in addition to, as Chief Riddick mentioned, West Hartford policy and state law requiring a necessary law enforcement reason, and I'm not going to speak to law or policy because I don't work for West Hartford or the state, we have a new feature within the system where you actually must select from a law enforcement reason in order to conduct a search. That is not exclusive to Connecticut. That is across our entire law enforcement clientele. You must select from a predetermined list of law enforcement reasons, things like burglary, things like homicide, hit and run. These allow users to get in there and search the system. Now, if you obfuscate your reason and you lie, you are accessing a system in a way that is incongruent with state law, and therefore you are going to be held culpable. We do not like when people misuse our system as a company. And we have built a number and continue to build a number of features within there from a technical level to dissuade users from using it improperly. That includes things like audit assistance, which is a new tool that we've rolled out in the last few months that actually surfaces patterns that may be indicative of misuse to agency administrators. So this is an automatic flagging system for users who are misusing it. In addition, something that we have coming out soon, and we continue to innovate in this area of trust and transparency and compliance is what we call it internally, is we have the ability for end users, being West Hartford, to select and choose what they want outside agencies to search for. So if West Hartford Police make a decision that the rest of Connecticut agencies can search West Hartford data for any reason, that's fine. And then they can limit it down, being like, I only want you to search my system for felonies, or I only want you to search my system for violent crimes, whatever that might be. But it's a bifurcation of the system where when I am an outside user searching a different town's data, that town can choose what I actually have access to. So it's very granular and it gets technically complex, but it's very granular within the software on what you can actually choose to search for. And so in terms of First Amendment searching, there are a number of technical blocks that exist within the system. And then of course, anytime we're onboarding customers, anytime we sell our product, we are always providing best practices in terms of protecting civil liberties.
And thank you. And that does help. I think one of the other questions that I've heard from several people multiple times actually is that defining someone as a terrorist or some role against current government policies, that they would be classified as a criminal without having committed a crime more than First Amendment. So it sounds like, again, it's a little bit, I don't know how, First Amendment, how clear that is if it's interpreted as being something that is, gone beyond First Amendment. But I don't know if you can answer that.
I think, let me just clarify the question. Are you asking if the federal government were to define someone as a terrorist, for example, that would allow them to circumvent some of the rules and regulations that exist within the use of this technology?
I do think that's what the questions that I have received, I think that's what they're getting at, is that a person that habitually has made their political stance, and they are going, they're being critical of the current government, and they are labeled as being a terrorist or someone that is, yeah, I've heard the term, and the email that I got, actually it was a text, was said terrorist. Would they then be able to be, how would that be protected? And yes.
Sure. So again, West Hartford chooses who they want to share data with. They are the owners of that data. Now, the law that's going into effect in October, which you can look it up, it's SB 397, does have a specific carve out for federal use, but it requires a judicial warrant, which means that federal law enforcement officer, in order to access that information, would have to go before a judge and secure a judicial warrant, serve that warrant to the data owner, which would be West Hartford in this case, and then they would have to choose whether or not to comply. It takes Flock, it takes the private side out of it completely, but that is how the process will work once SB 397 goes into effect.
Yeah, okay. That's what I just wanted that out and for the record. Thank you. Okay. Again, I'm very appreciative of all of your time and effort and to answering all of our questions.
Thank you. Thank you again, everyone.
Thank you, Mayor. Are there any other questions? Actually, Mr. Ledwith, is it possible to go ahead and post that link for the transparency portal in a way that people can see it? I don't know if it's possible. I think I lost Mr. Ledwith.
No, I think
No, I'm here. I'm looking at it to see.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think if Gerard is still on, if she goes to our website and just copies the link, she should be able to post it in the chat. And another question while we're trying to do that, Max, this is for you. I don't know what happened. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Great. All right. For you, we've gotten some questions regarding false LPR hits, and it's my understanding there's a lot of misinformation out there regarding it. Can you talk about that? Were you getting false hits for stolen motor vehicles or something? I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, Steve, to your point, there was an article actually, I think yesterday, if that's the one you're referring to, with some information out of Roseville, California, where they basically said that our accuracy, our machine learning accuracy, was low and resulted in false returns or false hits. So a couple things. I come from a public safety background. I don't want to comment. I was never a police officer in Connecticut, a different state. And never for West Hartford. But I can tell you that an LPR hit alone is never probable cause to initiate a traffic stop. You must either gain your own probable cause to make that traffic stop or verify the actual hit with your dispatcher or visually verify it. So an LPR hit alone is never probable cause to stop a vehicle. In addition, in speaking about the fallacies that are out there, the article was quoting a study that was done in 2024. In terms of technology, that's eons. That's probably 15 mLs ago of what we're actually currently using in the current iteration. And I actually spoke with an engineer last night about this, and our current rate of accuracy is for every 1 million hits that we're giving out to law enforcement officers, 9 are incorrect. So 9 out of 1 million is our current stated rate of what we call inaccurate hits.
Thank you, Max.
Thank you, Max. And I do believe that in review of the transparency portal, it does go through a lot of that information where uh, where a hit has to be confirmed before anything can be done or acted upon there. So the information is available. We'll see if we can get it a little bit more accessible or right in front of our faces so people like Ben and I can find it. And then I do want to acknowledge that it was posted twice for our folks there in the chat. If you would like to cut and paste that to your own browser. And I appreciate both Max and Town Manager Ledwith for putting that link up. We have lost a couple people. I warned you at the top that this meeting could be long, and but it has been long with a purpose. It has been a lot of great information. I don't see any more hands up. I don't know if that is indicative of no more questions, but if I don't see one in the next couple seconds, we will wrap up the questions and comments portion of this topic. All right. So what I want to say is thank you, Chief Riddick. Thank you, Max. Thank you. And I'm so sorry. Is it Lieutenant Melee? Got it.
Yep.
Mealy, sorry. So I want to thank you all for your information and participation in this meeting. Sometimes the best way to face questions, obviously, is just to provide the information and be totally transparent. And I do believe that West Hartford is being transparent about its use of these LPRs, about cameras. And I do believe that there is a way that we can balance constitutional concerns with that of public safety. And as we know, both are paramount. We absolutely need, those protections, and we absolutely need to have a safe and welcoming community that prides itself on such. So with no further ado, I think we'll go ahead and wrap this up. And I thank you again for your contributions and your information that you made today. Chief, I have met, or not Chief, I'm sorry. Some might call you Chief. Mr. Ledwith, we've gone very long. Do we want to skip reports today? They're both on the agenda. I imagine that we wouldn't want to exit this meeting without at least hearing from Chief Priest. Even though he did help out Chief Riddick with the PowerPoint, he may need to say at least hi to us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for your participation and great questions this morning. And thank you, Max, for joining us as well. Echoing everyone else's gratitude to you and to the Chief for the presentation. So, and Lieutenant Mealy. So we do have 2 reports, and we have gone quite a long time this morning. I think both were, routine updates from both departments, and we can probably add those to next month's agenda. We are going to have a presentation from the fire department at our September meeting. So we'll hear from the chief in more detail in September, but certainly if there was something, Chief Priest, you wanted to mention quickly, that would be fine.
No, I'd be doing a disservice to try and report out on the fire department. But the one thing is if you could just acknowledge our paramedics when you see them out there. They celebrated their 10th anniversary of providing service. We'll be recognizing them on September 9th at 10 o'clock in the morning. But I can pick up the rest of this at another time.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. And Chief Priest, thank you for mentioning paramedics offering an invaluable service and I might say saving lives and saving money, both things that I like. I would like to, I guess, go ahead and our next meeting will be September 1st, correct? That's what
Is that the first Tuesday? I'm sorry, I can't
it
look at
is.
my calendar.
It
Okay,
is.
yes, that's when it will be.
Okay.
Thank you.
So our next Public Safety Committee meeting will commence on September 1st, and at this moment, it will be at 8 a.m. If that changes, we will certainly let the public know. I would like to thank everybody for participating. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up at, what time is it? 9:37. And I want to call for a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Am I missing something? I feel like I'm missing something, Town Manager.
You are okay to adjourn the meeting, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We lost Dr. Harris, so I will go ahead and I guess second the motion myself. And those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, great. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks,
Today's
everyone.
supposed to be the best weather day, so enjoy it.